What's up? Dr. William James reporting to you. Dr. William Dion James. Before I get started, go get my new book. It's out right now, Black Supremacy, available on Amazon.com. If you don't have that book, you need to go get that book right now. So, what do I want to talk about today? So, I'm just leaving the gym. I was thinking about it. I wanted to address the interview I had a couple weeks ago. So a couple weeks ago, I had an interview with this guy. Many of you know him, Jesse Lee Peterson. He has the podcast, the Fallen State podcast. Interesting guy, interesting podcast. He's had a few different people on the show. So I went out there to speak to the guy. Really, I thought most of it would be discussing my book, but he hadn't had the chance to read my book, so we didn't really discuss my book. Obviously, the title sets off an alarm to people, or, you know, it makes them feel away. And someone like Jesse Lee Peterson, if you're familiar with him, he's going to have all of these thoughts just off of seeing the title without fully understanding the concept of the book. And the ideology presented in the book, or the information presented in the book, especially since he hadn't read the book. So throughout the interview, especially my interview was in person. So he has some interviews where he interviews people like via like Skype or Zoom or whatever. It's digital, it's online. And then he has in-person interviews. When you're in the studio with him, most of his interviews that I've seen with people, it's just him he's trying to attack your emotional intelligence. And if he can, he wants people who will like storm out, get agitated, things like that.
We're ending this right now.
Why you want to end?
We're ending it.
Well, wait, come back.
Take this off. When you want to have a real conversation, call me. No, you're bullshitting me.
Come back.
I'm not gonna be a part of that. Come take this off of me, or I'm gonna take it with me.
But why are you running?
Come take this off of me, or I'm gonna take it with me. Please take it off of me.
Really?
Because
Come take it
you're
off.
disrespecting me.
But no, I'm asking you really.
Please take it off.
Am I asking him really? Are you leaving?
I am leaving.
Don't go.
This is an inappropriate conversation.
Don't run.
And I'm not going to have it. I'm not running.
What the?
So since I'm aware of the type of, you know, person he is, or how he does interviews, and just also being a person who has a higher level of emotional intelligence, I just wouldn't let that happen. So there's parts of our interview where he used like ad hominem and things of that nature. And I noticed it, but I just skipped over it. So you'll see it when the interview drops. This was like 2 weeks ago, so I don't think the interview will drop, the podcast show with myself on it. I don't think it'll drop for like another 2 to 3 weeks. But after it drops, I'll probably do, you know, a follow-up, because it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what they edit out and what they keep. I'm trying to see how honest they are. But yeah, he was using ad hominem throughout parts of it. I didn't care. You know, he's an older guy. He's like 74 years old. So, you know, I was taught to respect my elders. You know, it's his platform. There was parts of it where like he's asking questions. It was a lot of him asking questions, but it wasn't to understand. It was more so to try to lead me where he wanted to lead me. Like he was trying to like Socratic method me or something like that. So throughout his questioning, it's sort of like he wants to try to identify if someone is more liberal or conservative. And I told him I'm neither. I'm nonpartisan, and my whole argument was that black people should be nonpartisan. We shouldn't attach ourselves to any political party, because neither party has done anything for black people. He would ask questions, and then whenever I started to go into detail or attach it to the book, he would cut me off. And, you know, it's a timed podcast. It's got the timer going and stuff like that. I let him do it because obviously it's going to be noticeable to people who are viewing it. You know, the people who follow him and are his supporters, they're going to agree with it. And then people who see things more my way will see what happened. But there's a part where he's talking about, like, he said, you know, white people are more oppressed than like black people in, you know, the last 8 years or so, or in history of America. And, you know, I'm like, Jesse, according to your own like research, according to even the history books with white people narrative, or, you know, in America, from 1619 to 1865, black people were oppressed and in chains and in slavery. And he's like, I don't even believe that.
Racism does not exist, and it never existed. There was a lie made up by the children of the lie.
So there was a whole bunch of stuff that, you know, he said that was just like, it was almost comical. So I didn't even really take the interview serious at a point, because it's not like we're having an intellectual discussion based on truth. I'm an objective person, and I want to have objective discussions, because we can't get anywhere with people playing games and not being honest about history and present day. So we were talking about several things, and one of the questions he asked me was like, has abortion been more detrimental to the black community or the KKK? Now, you got to understand, when people ask questions like that, again, then that's him attempting to be objective. So if I would have said, of course, the KKK, he's going to say, you know, well, since 1970 or 1973 or whatever, more than 20 million black babies have been killed due to abortion. The KKK didn't kill nowhere close to, you know, 20 million people. That's what people like him, or people that are on that side, want to trap you with. So in the interview, you're going to see, at first I was like, because I know he's trying to trap me there. So I'm like, who's to say like one is worse than the other? But he asked me again, and then I said, you know, the KKK is worse. And the reason being, because without the KKK, we wouldn't have all of these Planned Parenthoods and abortion clinics, because Margaret Sanger was a member of the KKK. Like, she was racist, and she said black people were like weeds that need to be cropped out of society. And she went to all of these KKK rallies, and she was speaking to them and talking about her plans and all of this stuff. I was like, so the KKK is worse. That's the correct answer to that question. Whenever they try to ask you a question like that, it's cause and effect. Without the KKK, we wouldn't have this many black abortions. So that's the answer to that. And I would love to see someone try to refute it. So that was one of the key parts of the interview. We were talking again about like black oppression, and he was trying to make it seem like it was so long ago. There's at one point I was talking about like May Louise Miller, who was in slavery, and how, you know, she was in slavery in the 1960s. and how there were a lot of black people who were still in slavery in the 1960s in America, and how, you know, there were wealthy white Southerners who used peonage to keep black people in slavery and servitude on plantations. And as soon as I started speaking about that, he cut it short. He cut it off. He was like, yeah, moving forward. So it was a very, you know, enlightening discussion. At one point, when we were talking about the abortion stuff, and he was like, you know, if Margaret Sanger was so bad, why did these different black leaders accept her award? Like, why did Martin Luther King Jr. accept her award? And I was like, you know, I don't know if I'm accepting that award, but if he did, it was his ignorance. And he was like, oh, his ignorance now. I'm like, yeah, he's not a Panamath. He doesn't know everything. Throughout the interview, I had expressed how I disagreed with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on desegregation. But we skated past that. So there was a lot of different topics that we skated past because he had an agenda. He had certain questions that he wanted to get to ask me. And if the questions that I answered, if they didn't fit his narrative and where we wanted to go, we moved past it. So it was a very interesting discussion. You know, he started asking me questions like, should women have the right to vote? Silly stuff, you know. I said, of course they should have the right to vote. There were a lot of questions he asked. You know, his favorite guy, Donald Trump, he was asking me about him. And a lot of the stuff was to try to get some reaction out of me, but I was just calm and I was enjoying myself. The guy he's older, but he's not really an intellectual. He's not speaking to you. Like, again, intellectuals have objective conversations, and we use data, facts, statistics, and we get somewhere. With him, especially if you're in the studio, he allows people to speak more. If you watch his interviews, you can speak more when you speak to him online. In person, especially if you're someone like me, who's sitting in front of someone like him with a book titled Black Supremacy, he's not going to let you speak and truly dive in and elaborate on your thoughts, your ideas, your perspectives. Not going to happen. But, you know, in all, I felt that my point was made, because, you know, he did ask me, where do I get the idea from with black supremacy? What does it mean? And I said, the concept is simple. Black people have supreme perseverance and resilience because, historically speaking, we are the most oppressed people in history, and we have made the most significant contributions in history. That is a fact, and I would debate anybody on that topic. Okay? Black people have made the most significant contributions historically, and they are the most oppressed. That can't really be debated. I would love to debate it with any person. And he said to me, so would you consider yourself racist? And I said, absolutely not. Because a racist is someone who believes that they're better than other people, or their race is better than other people, solely based on race. What my claim is, my thesis is, what my argument is that black people have supreme resilience and perseverance based off the fact that in the face of oppression and being the most oppressed people throughout history, we have made the most significant contributions. When you look at Garrett Morgan, who created the stoplight and the gas mask, when you look at people like Osborne Dorsey inventing the doorknob, George Crumb inventing potato chips, George Washington Carver having thousands of inventions from, peanut butter and cotton, making thousands of materials. When you look at Carter G. Woodson, when you look at Madam C.J. Walker, when you look at all of these black inventors, Lewis Lattimore, Benjamin Banneker, when you look at all of the contributions throughout history that black people have made while at a disadvantage, okay? When you look at the stories of Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman, look at their perseverance, look at their resilience. Where are the other stories like that throughout history? And who has more patents than us while we were oppressed? So just look at another group of people historically, while oppressed, while in slavery, they made that many contributions. There's no other group. None. We had patents stolen from us, and we're still credited with thousands of patents. They said that they said that slaves were property, and they couldn't claim patents because property can't make inventions. So a lot of our patents and inventions were credited to white people, to the slave master. And we still have thousands of patents credited to black people. So again, I will debate this topic with anybody. This is objective truth. And I wouldn't care if someone wrote another book making the same claim. If someone wrote a book called White Supremacy with the same type of claim, Asian Supremacy, whatever they wanted to title it, and try to make the same claim. It just doesn't hold weight the way my book holds weight. I go through the systemic oppression of black people with a focus on black people in America, and I go through the contributions that black people have made specifically in America. How we had our religion, identity, culture, everything stripped from us, our language stripped from us, but yet that has not stopped us from succeeding and accomplishing great things. And I also go through solutions, okay? So I go through a century-based look at our oppression, and I go through a century-based look at our contributions, okay? We're still battling oppression. There's some things that we still need to get rid of, like our eating habits, not exercising, not being financially literate, things of that nature, okay? There are parts throughout our history when we were doing better than we're doing now, and we have lost sight of some things that allow us to be successful. So that's the whole point. The black supremacist is the person who knows the things that allowed their ancestors to thrive and be successful in the face of oppression. And they operate on that level now. That's what I say on page 1 of my book. The black supremacist is one who does things to uplift his community or his or her community, and the other individuals are not black supremacists because they do things that are detrimental to the community. So the drug dealers and drug pushers and, abusers, child abusers, people taking part in gang violence, all of that stuff, those aren't your black supremacists. Those aren't the people who allow our race of people to reign supreme and be successful. The people such as myself who are actually educated, and I'm not talking, we spoke about that for a little while too, true education. I'm not talking about this public school education. I'm not talking about the indoctrination that's taking place in public schools throughout the United States of America, where you got McGraw-Hill textbooks saying that the transatlantic slave trade was some great migration. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a true education, true edification that you get in my book. That is what will allow black people to be successful, okay? Stop having children out of wedlock. Stop having these single-parent households. Stop having babies at 13 years old. Start building yourself up. Start having a career. Even if you don't go to college, if you take up a trade, or you're some type of entrepreneur or something like that, build yourself up. Build an income before you have children. Be able to offer your children different resources instead of living paycheck to paycheck, you should have some money in the bank before you decide to have children. Figure it out before you have children. Don't figure it out while you have children. Of course, I can hear the people who have children right now saying, well, nobody has it all figured out before they have children. I'm not talking about that. There's a big difference between someone having children and they're in debt, their credit score is at 400, they make $30,000 a year, as opposed to someone with a 750 credit score, they got $20,000 in the bank, and they make $100,000 a year. Big difference between that person having a child and the other person I'll talk to you about having a child. Also, we need to bring back community. It takes a village to raise a child. In the old days, in the 50s and 60s, the community looked after every child. It didn't have to be your child. Now in the Black community, if it's not your child, people don't want you saying a word to the child. I'm an educator. I work with parents to help children. All of the children who enter my class, I call them my child. And my children who see this, they're going to know it's true. And they know how much I care, so they allow me to do it. Okay? I call them my sons, my daughters, and I look after them like such. I help them like such. I've been teaching for 8 years, and I've had hundreds of students. Okay? All of my students are successful and thriving. Less than probably 3 out of the hundreds of students I've had over the years are not, what society would equate to successful. Okay? Because I stay in their lives. And I was trying to tell him this. Children need mentors. It matters how children are raised. It all starts in the home. Were you taught right from wrong? Were you taught to be a leader, not a follower? What did you see growing up in your household? That all matters. So, I just wanted to address this real quickly. Again, when the video drops, I will be doing another, summary or recap of the interview. But, y'all can let me know what y'all think of this. Leave y'all comments below and share the video. Peace.